Welcome to Desperately Seeking the 80s. I am Meg, and this is David Levine, who is kindly filling in for Jessica, who is traveling for work. Now, David and I have known each other since, we were 15?
Yeah, 85?
We did the independent school theater circuit. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, interschool drama.
Interschool drama. And I think the first time we met was in Love's Labor's Lost at Trinity, a school which neither of us attended, but we were in a play there.
Exactly.
And then we were also in Electra.
Which is as depressing as Love's Labor's Lost was fun. like the production was depressing. The environment was depressing.
The whole thing.
The whole thing was really depressing.
It's a good play.
Great, yeah.
And then we started running into each other a lot in the 90s because we both did theater here in New York City as grown-up adults.
Yep.
Professional theater. And then we kind of lost touch for a while and ran back into each other thanks to Matt Gazda and the whole Gazdaverse.
But I had just listened to your podcast.
It's
remember?
true.
And I saw you at a Gazda play, and I was like, hey, Meg, because I used to always say your full name whenever I saw you. Hey, hi, it's me. And also, I just listened to your podcast. So, yeah.
Well, I love that the podcast also brought us together. And you are a theater director and a film director and a conceptual artist, correct?
Yeah.
All right. And I think most importantly, a New York kid.
Yeah.
That's really the heart of the matter, isn't it?
Indeed.
Well, it's really, really lovely to have you here. And I very much appreciate the fact that you are filling in because honestly, I'm not going to say it's a rare thing to have somebody who you have so much in common with that you run back into and who has sort of a different or same perspective on your own childhood, but it's definitely a very special thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Great. Do you want to get started?
Yeah. I want to get started by giving a shout out to my stepfather, Bill Aller, who passed away at the age of 97 this summer. And the reason it occurs to me to mention him on this podcast is because Bill Aller was one of the 3 in-house photographers at the New York Times for the C section. So all the products you saw in the living section, in addition to which he was their main photographer of food, which means he did all of Craig Claiborne's cookbooks, all of Pierre Franey's cookbooks. So that particular look that food had in commercial photography, my dad has played a powerful but inadvertent hand in. And yeah, any product you happen to see in the C-section of the Times, if you were reading it in the 80s, was probably photographed by him, in addition to a really random set of, he did a lot of portraits, like Robert Mapplethorpe. There's all sorts of portraits that he took, Julia Child. But anyway, he passed away at home in apparently Rodney Dangerfield's old rental apartment, which is where they live now. So went very peacefully, did a lot of photography from the 80s. So rest in peace, Dad.
Yeah, I'm very sorry to hear that. But now I'm really excited to look at those pictures and we can post them on the Instagram.
That would be great.
I love that we're talking about a relative of yours who was very important to you because my story comes courtesy of a relative of mine who is incredibly important to me. And without her, I would never have known that this crazy, crazy thing happened. But first, I'm going to ask you an engagement question.
Okay.
Now, where did you grow up? What neighborhood?
I grew up in, I don't know if it's York. No, it's Carnegie Hill or Yorkville, Carnegie Hill border. I grew up on 89th between Lex and 3rd.
89th, Lex and 3rd. Awesome. This is so good. Where did you go grocery shopping?
Well, we either went to Gristedes or we went to Sloan's because they were on opposite sides of the street.
So there were these two about Sloan's.
Yeah, there were these 2 big grocery stores, and it always seemed, now that you mentioned it, super arbitrary to me that there were two equally sized grocery stores across the street from each other. And I guess if I were older, I would know what each one was known for.
Right.
But you just went to one or the other, right next to Andy Warhol's first house.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I grew up on 92nd between Park and Lexington, and there was a Pioneer, you know where the Y is?
Yeah.
So on the other side of the Y. And my parents, I remember, did make a distinction between the Pioneer and the Gristedes, because that was actually the choice that they would make. Gristedes was more expensive, but it had better selection. So it was like, do we walk those couple of blocks to Gristedes, but we're going to have to pay more? That's what I remember, the scuttlebutt in the kitchen.
Okay. All right. Okay. The idea that Gristedes, like, compared with grocery stores today, it was so fucking nasty.
Oh my God, disgusting.
This was a purveyor of foods of quality on the Upper East Side, apparently.
Yes. I mean, that's the crazy thing. I remember visiting my grandparents in Atlanta and being like, oh, this is a grocery store? It's clean? It's not like dusty or anything. I mean, like grocery stores in New York are gross, right?
Yeah.
And weird. And not a lot of produce.
No.
Not when we were growing up.
No.
Yeah.
Like, it's sort of, it wasn't until Korean delis came along that you started getting produce.
Exactly. But I'm so glad you said that. That's the perfect segue, in fact. My sources are my Aunt Laura and the New York Times. In 1984, Kyung Sung Choi, a Brooklyn resident and small business owner, decided to open a Korean deli. After the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, many South Koreans came to New York, but few spoke English, so their employment options were limited. And as it turned out, opening a small business in New York in the 70s and 80s was a great way to make ends meet. For as little as $5,000, you could open a small grocery store in a kind of sketchy neighborhood. And that neighborhood needed you and wanted you. As the Jewish and Italian small businessmen of the previous generation retired or moved to the suburbs, the new Korean immigrants filled their shoes and provided much-needed services. As we were just talking about, without a Gristedes or a Pioneer or any of those kind of grocery stores close by, Korean delis were the only source of food and produce for many blocks. Kyung Sung Choi had already run a successful Carvel ice cream store in Brooklyn. Now he was ready to open a deli and was looking for a community that didn't have a handy grocery store. And he found one on 75th Street and Park Avenue. Now, rezoning, the look in your eyes right now is like, 75th and Park?
No, I remember the super anomalous Korean deli on 75th and Park, and I always wondered what in the world of business I was doing there or how it got there. So I'm
find out.
I'm beaming with prospective edification.
Okay. So rezoning in 1961 made Park Avenue strictly residential between 60th and 96th Streets, but a flower shop, Flowers by Court was the name of it, had been grandfathered in on that corner of 75th and Park. And it had only just recently closed, now in 1984. So Mr. Choi figured he'd replace flowers with fruit and everyone in the neighborhood would be delighted. They were not. Shirley Bernstein, who lived across the street since 1950, was horrified. Quote, "Do the residents of Park Avenue want to look out the window at vegetables? They most certainly do not. A delicatessen is simply inappropriate. It's despoiling the neighborhood. It belongs on Lexington or Madison, not here." Mr. Choi was shocked. There were very few grocery stores on the Upper East Side, at least that close to the park, and he assumed his small deli would be a welcome addition to the community. Instead, the community called their lawyers and their representatives. Borough President Andrew Stein's parents lived in Shirley Bernstein's building, and he took up the anti-Korean deli cause. The argument was that the deli would ruin the character of the neighborhood, lower property values, disturb the peace with lights and noise, generate litter, attract rats, and bring criminals to the otherwise peaceful Park Avenue oasis. Mrs. Bernstein made 750 flyers, and 120 volunteers from the Friends of the Upper East Side Historic District stalked the renovations of the storefront, looking for any possible violation that would get it shut down. Can you imagine? He's just trying to clean the place up, give it a new coat of paint, and there are all these people walking by, like with binoculars and taking pictures, trying to catch him in something.
I wish you could find a flyer.
Oh my God, that would be so good.
Like, I bet, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll look around. No, that would be amazing.
It's like the Upper East Side version of the Hard Hat Riots, right? It's like...
And the fact that the Upper East Side Historic District, Friends of the Upper East Side Historic District, I don't even know if this still exists, but I mean...
No.
You don't think so?
I mean, something like that must exist.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I wonder if it was formed just for this reason, or if it...
Perhaps. Or maybe it morphed. My mom is a member of the Carnegie Hill Neighbors, which is the same sort
All
of...
I can ever think of is the Men's Association and the Stepford Wives. Like, this is part of the Men's Association. Okay.
All right. So, Mr. Choi, in the meantime, did recon work at Zabar's to find out what these people would find acceptable in a food store. He's just trying to give them what they want. He stocked up on Grey Poupon and Fauchon herb vinegar. He hung a canopy that said gourmet foods. He agreed to cut its hours to only 17 rather than 24. He moved the offending vegetables inside and replaced them with straw gift baskets in the windows. But Mrs. Bernstein was not appeased. Quote, "We do not want a food store of any kind. Flowers might be all right. Or chocolates. Yes, Swiss or Belgian chocolates."
The fuck?
I know. Lady.
But also, again, sorry, and I say this as a Jewish person. The particular wasp affectations of Upper East Side Jews in that moment were just so bonkers. Like, oh, would it, Ms. Bernstein? Would it offend the eye? Would you prefer to have Swiss chocolates? They were neutral during World War II. Like, what? Like,
Thought of that. Now, it's interesting that she would have approved of it being a flower store, considering the reason Flowers by Court closed in 1981. Howard Finkelstein. Finkelstein? What do we think?
Oh, we never
Who knows?
know.
The 52-year-old owner of Flowers by Court was arrested for instructing his employee, George Attard, to bomb, like a bomb, Felon Company florists on 72nd and 3rd. Twice.
Whoa.
Twice. On January 26th and May 7th, 1981, Felon...
Wait, it's called Felon?
Felon, no, it is Fellan.
Okay.
Felon Floral Shop was bombed, actually bombed, resulting in some damage but no injuries, thank goodness. Finkelstein wanted his competitor, Felon, closed down for Mother's Day, a huge day for flowers. Incidentally, Finkelstein was also selling heroin out of the Park Avenue storefront. Flowers by Court sold heroin.
To Sylvia Bernstein.
No,
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think so. But that's why it was empty. That's why they had to close
Right.
down, because he went to jail. He and George sold about $1 million worth of heroin to an undercover agent. So that's why the Park Avenue store was vacant when Mr. Choi was looking for a deli location. Strangely, Mrs. Bernstein didn't have issue with the element associated with a heroin hub of arsonists. But Mr. Choi was another matter. Quote, "Oh, absolutely not. Your being Korean has nothing to do with this. She was talking to Mr. Choi on the phone when a reporter from the Times was in her apartment. I'll continue. I'm not prejudiced. I employ Chinese people. Our lawyer will call your lawyer. I'm so sorry about this, but you must understand that you have your ways and that we have ours. Lady. And the reporter, he just wrote down every single detail of all of this. He did not spare her.
Wow.
Now, I'm happy to report that she was not, in fact, successful in thwarting Mr. Choi. Some neighbors were appalled by her behavior and the behavior of her squad. They were also equally connected, and they formed a legal defense fund to aid Mr. Choi. Isn't that nice? And Mr. Choi was victorious. And in April 1984, Mr. Choi's Korean gourmet food establishment, God forbid we call it a deli, opened. And this is a quote from Mr. Choi. Business is pretty good. People are treating me very nicely. They like my store. I don't want to think about the past. I want to think about the future. I want to try to do my best for the neighborhood. Now, he did put melons, apples, oranges, and grapefruits in the window, along with the straw gift baskets. But in deference to Mrs. Bernstein's strong feelings, there were no vegetables. And do you know what it is now? Can you picture that corner?
I can picture the corner, but I don't know what's there now.
A Gagosian showroom.
Oh, huh. Yeah, that was it always did stand out. It's true. I mean,
I
always thought it was
actually
funny because it was so classy looking, and I was like, "Is this how they do their Korean?" Because the other weird thing, just three weird things about this.
Yes.
One is I would have thought the real issue would have been, the fanciest grocery store on Lexington is right around the corner, right?
That is true.
Like, what are they called? The legendary,
Butterfields?
Butterfields.
Yeah.
That sold flowers and...
I love Butterfields.
Right,
it is my absolute favorite place.
And it was only a block or two away. And I would have thought...
79th Street.
79th. Okay. Thing two was, it always really stuck out. It always really, you did notice, you were like, what is that doing there? And it always seemed to not quite manage to fit in because it was the only business. But number three is they must have been selling smack to rich people because otherwise Ms. Bernstein would have noticed this element congregating around the florists.
You have such a good point.
So this was
they were
for
selling heroin to people who did not stand out in a weird way on the corner of 75th and Park.
And this is also going to your mugging discussion of last week. I mean, I'm amazed that place didn't get knocked over. Well, I mean, he would have bombed them. Do you know anything else about Sylvia or Frank?
No, I don't. I want my next, sleuthing. I want to find out about this poor floral shop that got bombed twice and still, by the way, managed to sell flowers on Mother's Day. They stayed open in spite of it all.
Wow. I mean, the number of Bumblers comedies that could be made.
Crazy. And who bombs? Who bombs?
I mean, a mobbed up owner of a flower shop.
Sampling his own supply? I don't know.
No, it mellows you out. That's
right.
Not,
okay.
no,
I don't know about heroin.
He's clearly a gangster, right? Like, if he's thinking about bombing and he's dealing heroin, I mean, he's in with some mob.
And he's making $1 million selling drugs, but he also really wants to sell flowers too. Like, how much are you going to make on the flowers? Like, what is happening right now?
Crazy. Yeah, that is a great story. That is a great story.
Thank you, Aunt Laura.
Thank you, Aunt Laura. So one thing that seemed prevalent in the 80s, if you went to private school or if you grew up in a certain way, was the presence of Irish nannies. There had been a big exodus from Ireland maybe 10 years earlier, and they were all in New York and they all kind of knew each other. So your nanny would bring you over to a friend's house, and it would turn out that they were both, they were from neighboring counties and they knew each other. And this is how I came to know about the personal habits of one very wealthy man while simultaneously working for that wealthy man. Now, the personal habits I'm just sort of not going to get into.
Okay.
But it was interesting that I would always get like background gossip on this guy
Through your nanny?
through my nanny, because she knew somebody who was his personal maid,
Okay.
right? Or she'd
And
been his
they're
personal maid,
talking
and they're
freely
talking,
around
yeah.
little David Levine.
Well, you know,
He's
and you're
like,
hearing, but it's the real story kicks in when I'm older, and it's really more about things in the 80s. But I just would find out things about this guy's like personal habits. Like, you know, he had, I don't know how you're going to edit around this, but he had a lot of mistresses. He was single, and he lived in palatial digs. And my mom was friends with many of his mistresses, but, you know, this nanny who had since become the housekeeper once I no longer needed a nanny was still, you know, his maid would tell, you know, her friend about, you know, how like 1 a.m. And I mean, just very kind of like, anyway, you can cut all this out because in a sense it's not germane, but I'm just laying. So
only if you want me to cut it out.
well, it's just that it's you're going to be able to figure out who this person is by the time I'm done with the story. So even though I'm not going to say his name, we might just cut out like the sex stuff.
Okay.
He was a confirmed bachelor. I met him a few times. He had this, I smell like vanilla.
Fascinating.
And in high school, I think it was the summer between, like, I just graduated from high school. It's 88. And, you know, New York had weathered that little Black Monday thing. Everyone was fine again. I was going off to Cornell at the end of the summer. And my mom, who knew this guy, she wasn't romantically involved with him, but he was a patron of the arts and she knew a lot of his girlfriends. Somehow I wound up getting a job working for his real estate company.
Okay.
And and I am given a summer job working for his real estate company, and I am placed under the vice president in charge of evictions.
Ooh.
Who is a very short-tempered, very intense guy named Arthur Zabarkis.
Okay.
And what you did with evictions was, because these guys owned a lot of property, and a lot of it was rent controlled, and the rent control laws were stricter then, and the only way you could boot somebody off of a rent control lease, really, I could be wrong about this, one of the few mechanisms that real estate companies had to get rid of rent control tenants, because you could pass it on,
right,
you know, was finding out they'd broken the terms of the lease.
Okay.
But to do that, how were you going to figure that out? You were going to hire private investigators. So one day I'm busy, you know, doing my whatever stuff, and Arthur comes in and he's like, come on. This is the best day of the week. You got to see this. It's Friday. And they have retained the services of Dossier. It's Dossier Services Incorporated. It's a private investigations firm. They send all their communiques in like very thick, opaque envelopes with like, you know, an insignia D on the corner, right?
Goodness.
And Dossier every week will message over whatever dirt they got on these people's tenants. This day they brought over, they sent over a videotape, because like, this is the 80s. So they owned
the video camera was probably like
yes, yeah. Except for maybe those like special ones you get at Hammacher Schlemmer or something, you know. But like it was like next to the bondage teddy bear or what have you. Like, but so it was they owned a big property near the UN.
Okay.
And
like across the street from it.
A lot of the tenants would rent rooms out to aides de camp, right? To like diplomats' assistants, right? They'd rent out their rooms. So Dossier answered an ad that had been placed in some, you know, paper or something. Somebody pretending to be
a
diplomat's assistant looking to rent a room. And so they've got a little video camera, a little pinhole video recorder in their briefcase, which they put on their lap. And me and Arthur and a couple of people from legal are sitting around in this conference room watching this VHS tape, watching this entire transaction take place, this entire arrangement takes place. And at the end of it, you know, I think at the end of it, the woman who's renting the place to this guy who's pretending to be like a, you know, Brazilian, lower level, whatever, is like, well, here, let me write down my contact info. And the guy's like, that's okay. I got it. And the entire room like bursts into laughter, right? Because they've.
And just to clarify, so that's breaking her lease because she's not allowed to sublease.
She's not allowed to sublet.
Yeah.
So they had files and dossiers on everybody. They had a file on Jimmy Stewart. It was my job, Jimmy fucking Stewart.
You're going to kick Jimmy Stewart out of his rent control
and
apartment?
his poetry book had just come out. But like, he was like an aging, and I was supposed to go through and sort of clean up these files, and there were files on like everybody.
So you read the dirt on everybody.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't always dirt, but because they were sending Dossier out like 10 lease by lease to see who was breaking it. But yeah. So I worked for Arthur Zabarkas for a couple of months. He had a really bad temper though. And I think at a certain point, he didn't really want me around anymore. At which point I started getting sent out on the most Baroque errands, many of which involved the business owner's mother. Who lived in her own penthouse, right? In her own. And again, this isn't really much of a story, but it's there was a very 80s feel to the whole thing. And at one point, she's like ailing. At one point, I was assigned on a very important time-sensitive mission, which is I had to go get her teeth.
You had to pick up her teeth?
I had to pick up her teeth.
Please tell me you didn't have to insert her teeth.
No, I never saw her because, these people were insulated by layers of doormen,
So you're just dropping off a package.
But I had to get there by a particular time. And it was like being in a movie. I had to race over to the dentist who's like, Midtown East, grab the teeth and run uptown through traffic to get them back to to the hotel that all these people were living in. Anyway, those are my they're not stories, but they seem emblematic. I mean, that and the time I got in a fist fight with somebody at Dalton, who the only fist fight I ever got into because he told me with a straight face that his clothes were worth more than my family. And then he corrected himself to tell me that his clothes were worth more than my entire life. And he meant it. It was a special time.
It was. Do you think it's changed? You're still a New Yorker?
What do you mean? Those are two different questions.
That you've got the perspective of having been here for a few decades.
Yeah.
Has it changed?
Has New York changed?
Yeah,
or do you mean?
are those people? Like you said, it was a special time, like the 80s, like that kind of sort of Wall Street asshole.
No, I think it's back. I think it's back. I think it happens in different places, but I think it's basically back. Like I think that degree of kind of like wealth and heedless entitlement is, it's
being proud of it. I guess you're right. Like for a period of time, there was a little bit of embarrassment, or at least like flaunting that kind of wealth and power didn't seem to be trending.
But I think one thing that's happening there now is that it's just not, like Wall Street was a quiet place that suddenly got supercharged, but the buildings and the institutions were there to house these like newly minted lunatics, right? Whereas now, most of the money is coming from like, crypto or coming from tech or coming from like VC stuff, but that doesn't really live in a building or a district in the same way.
Right.
I feel like so.
But those guys are hanging out, and they're.
But there's many more women in the workplace now. Like there's a lot more women making that kind of money now too. So I feel like when I run into like BSD, it's kind of, they're not necessarily like the Wall Streeters are comparatively well behaved. That's not like where the real like rapacious frenzy is happening.
So this summer, because of, everybody getting nervous, not everybody, some people getting nervous about the upcoming mayoral election, my brother, who now lives in LA, was like, well, I've heard that all the rich people are going to leave New York now if Mamdani wins. And it's like, what? Do you really think that's going to happen? That's such a crazy
Nobody's going anywhere.
Nobody's going. They never do.
And besides, they threatened this with Koch too, and then he got elected, and then he kowtowed to them for years because the city needed, more money. So, Who knows what
We'll
will
see
happen?
what happens. But I did think it was so funny, the idea of like all these rich people just packing up all their toys
I'm
and going.
going to Iowa.
I know. Where exactly would you go? That
No,
sounds horrible.
totally. Like, Sioux City's got nightlife.
Did you read that article? I think it was like a New York Magazine article this summer about all the people in the Hamptons like freaking out about the upcoming election.
I think it's adorable. I think it's so cute. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other night, doubles.
Which, okay.
In my talks.
You have to tell us a little bit about doubles, because that is also like, it just sounds so crazy 80s.
Well, okay, so I went to a wedding. I went to an anniversary party. I went celebrating the 5th anniversary of a wedding that had not taken place because of COVID, right?
Oh, okay.
So they finally had their party, and they had it in the basement of the Sherry Netherland, which is like one of the, I know most of the venerable hotel bars, and I had not actually known of this one, and it's a private club called Doubles.
And it's in the basement.
It's in the basement. And it's and you can rent it out, and black tie very encouraged. And it's this very kind of loose, mirrored and kind of red walls kind of scene. It has like a Turkish motif, like very, but like Turkish in the sense of like, Orientalist paintings, and it's very, I mean, it must be from the 80s, and it's got like, wall-to-wall carpeting and like little stepped, like sunken areas. That some of the grandparents like fell on, and a disco ball at the center of the room. And
perfect. My dad was for a short time seeing a woman who became a very, very good friend after they were no longer romantically involved. A woman who lived in the Sherry Netherland. She was very proud of her address. And she had her kitchen turned into a closet because, you need more room for all of your clothes. You certainly are never going to be eating in there, She lost the apartment. She had a horrible divorce. And the one thing she walked away with, she was, I think, the second wife, which is not so great. Like being divorced, if you're the first wife, maybe you're going to get something. The second wife, no. And they said, all right, you can have this apartment. But then the daughter of the person she had divorced sued her for the apartment years later and got it. And so she was left with nothing.
Wow. But the daughter was shocked when she found out she didn't have a kitchen.
Right, exactly.
That's terrible. She was left with nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, she had no income? She had no...
No.
Oh, those kind of New York stories. This is a total aside, but somebody told me once that who was in a position to know that Ruth Kligman, who was Jackson Pollock's girlfriend after Lee Krasner, Frank O'Hara called her Death Car Girl, but she survived the accident.
Right. Okay.
Her friend died.
Yes.
Pollock does. The only possession she has is a painting that Jackson gave her, and Lee Krasner refused to authenticate it. Right. Well, I mean, I probably would have done because
car situation?
because of the cheating situation.
Oh,
because of
okay.
it was the only lever she had. But it's these people who like these amazing apartments in New York, and yet they have nothing.
Cash poor.
Like you're living at the Sherry Netherland and you have no money. That's like
money.
That's like Eloise. That's what probably would have happened to Eloise's mom eventually. I also want to say as an aside, and you can cut this too. Are we still recording even?
Yeah.
Like I didn't. Sorry, I had my first date with my wife in the Oak Room.
Ooh.
Before it closed.
Nice.
Back when it was
pretty
tacky.
That?
It was pretty tacky at that point, but it wasn't gone.
Right.
Which was perfect.
I'm keeping that. Sorry.
Wait, so I went down to this club, and this guy, so it was a super fun party, and everyone looked great, and the tuxes looked great, the formal dresses looked great, the mirrors made everything look twice as great.
Can you tell everybody where you got your tux?
Oh yeah. They should let me have it for free now. Don't fuck with Men's Warehouse. I'm telling you, New Era factory outlet on Orchard Street is both better fitting and much more entertaining.
Amazing. I'll do a little shout out on the Instagram.
Yeah, no, New Era factory outlet is where it's at. It's run by like a husband and wife. They're about 70 to 75. Forgive me if I get the age wrong. They're super fun.
On Orchard Street.
Very
old school
and they send you up the block to a tailor they have a deal with. So you rent the tux, and then you get it altered for $10.
Oh my God.
And then you can return the tux. You buy the tux basically, but then you return it. So the alterations happen while you wait. So you can get like I walked in and the guy looked at me and he was like, 33. And I was like, what? He's like, I hope you don't think that's creepy. And I was like, no, you clearly have been doing this for a long time. Yes, that is my waist. Like, anyway, so yeah, I recommend. But this guy I was talking to, like a rich guy, was like, yeah, that mayoral contest, that's gonna be a mess. And this is a guy who grew up in New York. I'm not sure he still lives in New York. He's like, you guys are gonna have a real mess on your hands, you know. And I realized, with the kind of clarity, I was like, right, if you have money to lose, you don't want Mamdani to win. But there was something so, I was just kind of like, oh, right. This guy has a lot of money. So he doesn't want, it suddenly made a certain kind of, it makes me sound really stupid, but it made very clear sense to me.
I know what you mean. But the flip of that, of course, is you can afford to lose a little bit of money. Like, just chill the fuck out. You won't be living on the street.
Well, this
do you actually think you're going to be destitute because of who the mayor is?
But this is what was so interesting about him, is he was relatively calm about it. Like he has certain, he wasn't hysterical about it, but he has certain interests that he would like to protect more than he would like other things. It was very like straightforward in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's why they have so much money, because they think that way.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Life's work. Gathering money. Okay, so David, you know what Jessica and I usually do. We try and do a tie-in at the end.
Oh, yeah.
What do these two stories have in common?
Oh, right.
We've got the heroine, arsonist, florist, Korean Deli, and
we've got the eviction.
The evictions.
Real estate. The spying. Actually, how about that? I think that might be it. Okay.
Like something about the spying and the bombing to me feels like 007 kind of thing, which to me feels of a time.
Well, I think also, yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, like, but it's this funny thing of like the Dossier thing is like sort of fake classy, right? Like, but the bombing thing is like fake mobster. It's like these two kind of like
they
different poles of New York kind of intersect in this weird section of the Upper East Side.
Right. And everyone just trying to like pretend to be, or maybe they actually were bad guys. It actually sounds like your guy was a pretty bad guy.
But it also is like really multi-ethnic, right? Like Arthur Zabarkis, you know, is clearly like a first-generation guy too, you know. So it is this kind of like, or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching. But it does seem like really like, what are you going to do to protect your real estate? Like, what kind of depths are you going to go to protect your real estate? Like evictions, bombings.
I know, and Mrs. Bernstein in her window with her binoculars.
People get crazy. I mean, I told you that I told you that I started like discovering Facebook accounts for like the parents of people we knew in high school.
Oh, no, you didn't.
During like researching some story or something. And they're all like these batshit 80-year-old like right wingers, you know, like people start to lose their minds, you know.
I know.
I think
I'm related to one of those.
Are you?
Yeah.
So having lived in the same apartment on the Upper East Side for too long, especially on Park Avenue, might be bad for you.
Okay. That's a good one. That's like good advice.
If you've had one for a long time, just mix it up a little bit. Change it up.